Self-care can go way beyond bubble baths and pedicures, and that's what this series is all about. Today is the second video in a series talking about 7 different types of self-care. We're working with a free workbook that you can print. I'll put the link in the description if you need to download it still, and it's going to help you walk through this exercise I'm going to take you through today to figure out what kind of self-care activities could you be doing to improve your emotional self-care. If you missed last week's video, it was about physical self-care, so you can go check that out when this one is done. So what exactly is emotional self-care? This is taking care of your emotional well-being. So this can include things like expressing your feelings and setting boundaries, practicing self-compassion, and seeking support when you need it. So let's move into this exercise now and figure out how you're doing with your emotional self-care and what you could be doing to improve it. If you're working with the workbook, turn to the page that says emotional self-care at the top. And if you're working with a piece of paper, just write emotional at the top of your page. Next, we're going to rate how we're doing emotionally. And on your workbook, it has a list of descriptors that you can choose from. If you're just using a piece of paper, you just write down a couple of words to describe how you feel. So this could be things like, I'm actually feeling pretty good emotionally. Maybe you're feeling excited, energized, content, pretty good about how you're doing emotionally. Or maybe you're feeling stressed, overwhelmed, and burnt out. Those are a few examples. You'll find them on the worksheet, and if you want to add your own words, you can. Go ahead and pause the video and take a moment to fill that out. Okay, now that you have a starting point of how you're doing with your emotional self-care, we're going to make a little chart. If you have the workbook, it's already there for you. If you have a piece of paper, just draw a line down the center with 2 headings. One is going to say doing, and the other is going to say to do. And now I want you to pause the video again, and you're going to fill out the doing section of your chart with all the things that you're doing in your life right now that are helping to take care of your emotional well-being. Okay, welcome back. Let's go through some ideas of how you can improve your emotional well-being. As I'm going through the list, think about which ideas you think you would enjoy. Which ones sound interesting to you? And feel free to pause the video at any time and add the ones that sound interesting to you to your to-do list. I'm going to go through a list now of about 10 different ideas. The first one is mindfulness and meditation. And I've done several videos about this topic in the past, and I'll link to those in some of the cards and in the description if you want to check those out specifically to learn a little bit more about meditation or how you can get started as a beginner. The next idea is one I'm a big fan of, and that is gratitude journaling. I have this gratitude journal that I picked up a couple years ago, and I have bought another one for a backup when this one runs out. It just has space, this one has space for the date and 3 things that I am grateful for that day. And I'm not perfect about doing it every single day, but as often as I can remember to, I fill out 3 things I'm grateful for that day, and I try to mix it up with different things. It could be anything, something really small that seems like not that much of a big deal, or something really big that's really important to me in my life. I'm sure the concept of a gratitude journal is not new to you. You've probably heard about it a lot before, and I'm here to tell you that it really does make a big difference. If you want to try it, I highly suggest it. It's so easy, it doesn't take a lot of time, and it makes a difference to how you feel. Next is nature. Take some time to get outside and just be in nature and experience those surroundings. It's so calming and peaceful and centering to just be in nature. If you like to hike, get outside and combine this with a physical self-care item. If you like to walk, just go for a leisurely stroll, or if you just don't feel like being active, just get out there, sit down or stand and just be in nature. Other things that can help with your emotional well-being is not being afraid to set boundaries or say no to things. Another one that could potentially be in conjunction with this is seeing a therapist who could potentially help you with that and a lot of other emotional challenges. And going back to the gratitude journal idea, you could also do regular journaling. And actually there are quite a few different ways to journal that can be really helpful. You could just be documenting your day. You could be talking about how you're feeling. You could just spill out all the stresses that you have in your day. And I've talked about that in a previous video as well. And that can help you sort through how are you feeling and why are you feeling that way, and even come to some conclusions about how to deal with those feelings that you might not be able to come to just through thinking it through. There's something about writing it down that really helps you to clarify things. Hobbies and creative activities can also be really good for your emotional health. Maybe there's something artistic you've been meaning to try. Maybe you could pick up some painting or drawing supplies, or go and pick up some knitting needles and some yarn and find a couple of videos on YouTube that could teach you how to do something that you've always thought would be kind of interesting to learn. Spending time with others can also be really good for your emotional health. So maybe schedule that girls' night, or set up that book club you've been thinking about doing, or ask a friend to join you on a walk, or to take a class with you, or meet you for lunch. Limit social media consumption. This is something I've also talked about a couple of times on my channel before, with limiting Instagram specifically. And along with limiting social media consumption, maybe you're doing a lot of consumption of news, and that could be stressing you out or damaging your emotional wellness. And finally, how are you doing in the areas of self-compassion or self-criticism? Maybe you could be making a little bit of a conscious effort in those areas to improve. I'm sure you have ideas of things that you're doing already that you could share in the comments for someone who might be looking for some more ideas, and I encourage you to do that. What works well for you for your emotional well-being is probably going to change over time, so be patient with yourself and kind to yourself as you try to work through this and figure out what is good for you right now. The next video in this series is going to be about social self-care, so stay tuned for that. And if you missed the physical self-care video, I will link to that on the screen somewhere and probably in the description as well, so you don't have to miss it.